We talk a lot about community on this podcast, what it means to be a part of one, how to contribute to your own, and the things that keep them healthy. I think one of the most important components of a community is having a safe space to gather, a place where people can congregate and be around like-minded individuals. Insanity Boardshop is one such place located in San Antonio, Texas. Captained by Ehren Mohammadi, the shop has been around for over 10 years now and supported various skate events in that time. Ehren himself is actually planning out a pretty big event for the 2024 distance skateboarding calendar. It is a 3-day event happening in his local area of San Antonio, consisting of about 160 miles. Should be quite the challenge, and I think a lot of you are going to be excited to hear what he has to say about it. Without further ado, let's get to the episode. I'm Max Frank. Thank you for listening. Hello and welcome to Skating in Circles. I'm here with Ehren Mohammadi. Ehren, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Max?
I'm doing good. So, first question I like to ask everyone is, where are you coming from? Like, where do you live? Where do you call home?
So my whole life I've called San Antonio my home. I'm in San Antonio right now. That's where my store is located, in San Antonio, Texas also.
Awesome. And you own Insanity Boardshop. For those who don't know, Ehren's been in the scene for a very long time. And when did you start, actually, real quick, when did you start Insanity Boardshop?
We first opened in 2012, but yeah, it was on the back. I was doing business plans about it back in 2011, 2010 in college also.
Wow.
And then it came to life in 2012 and started, opening up the store and everything like that too.
That's cool. So you were into skateboarding at that time, but when would you say, like, the first time?
Well, if you want to be specific, we were into longboarding at the time. We didn't do skateboarding at all back then.
All right, so specifically longboards,
the store was full of longboards. There's maybe like 100 to 120, longboards in there, decks, and then wheels and trucks, longboard trucks, and lots of wheels to choose from. Like, my full budget was going towards longboard gear. Hardly any clothing, so you could just imagine like everything was longboard related as far as it could go on there.
That's cool.
Like kind of like Motion Board Shop tries to do with it. Like, it's just mostly longboards in there right now.
Right.
Nate Blackburn.
Cool.
Yeah.
So when was your first time riding, I guess, and like what got you into this whole thing? Like, or did you even ride before then, or did you just open up a shop?
No. So when I was growing up, I didn't do skateboarding or longboarding. Not until I was like 17. I had my cousin in California had like a skateboard I borrowed. And when I got back, I got a longboard for myself at Zoomies, like a pintail. But it was just like something I just picked up later on in life. Growing up, I did like every sport imaginable out there. Eventually got really good at like swimming and water polo.
Oh, really?
That's why, I feel so connected. Like, distance skating seems kind of easier to me because I was doing used to do repetitive swimming all the time.
Sure, and that's like an endurance sport.
Yeah.
Nice. So you started a board shop called Insanity Board Shop. Has it always been in San Antonio? Yeah,
it's always been San Antonio. We were just at one location for like the first 3 years, and we moved closer to UTSA, the university nearby.
So what's new with the shop? Any new news lately? I saw you had the Pokemon skateboards. Those were really cool. You had a bunch of those.
Those were cool. That's just something that kind of just like sells out really fast. And then a lot of people afterwards just calling to see if we still had them, if we're going to get more in. There was a lot of phone calls for that kind of stuff. I was
one of those, yeah.
That too. Yeah. It's fun from the outside perspective, but from the inside, it's more like it's just like hectic and kind of it can get to you after a while because you're like, I'm tired of talking about that drop. And I'm like, okay, let's just move on to some other drop.
Yeah.
Because it's just like a quick money grab. They want to get you hooked onto one little thing, and then you're not going to see it again.
Yeah, super
It's like
trendy.
it's kind of like a hype. I call it. A lot of people do it too. Is like the hype thing. It's just hype, and then it's gone.
Yeah. I thought it was cool that you were able to get some, because of
Yeah.
how like, I guess not rare. It's kind of rare, but it was cool to see.
No, yeah. Someone did pull a golden Charizard in the store. Only 2 people opened their bag in the store, and they both got Charizards. One was golden, one was silver. But yeah, the golden one is like 1 of 50 of that deck.
I feel like a lot of people bought them because of the whole the card craze. Like everyone's going crazy for the cards right now and stuff.
Right.
It's only natural. But yeah, anything else going on? Like you were at the Rock Around the Rock race, right? Did you guys sponsor that?
Yeah, we did sponsor that event. I just didn't know if I was going to be able to make it with the kids. And the past couple of years, I hadn't even gone out to it just because it's the drive, and then also up to Dallas and my injury with my ankle injury. Last year and this year is the first 2 years I felt like really good as far as I can LDP at the same kind of speed, before I broke my ankle. It's not giving me kind of like any kind of problems or anything like as far as like it hurting or feeling weak. So these past 2 years I've been like getting better and faster as I can get back to like before like 2019 or 2018 when I was pushing a lot miles too. So yeah, I went out to that event and I raced in there too with the guys.
Nice.
It was super wet and rainy. It was moist when I was driving up there, like foggy and all. I was driving up there, and we knew it was going to be wet, and it just rained the night before. So the area was really flooded. There was like these big puddles all over the place that were just flooded. And if it wasn't flood, there was like maybe a little bit of mud, or there was like broken tree limbs and things like that. It was kind of sad to see, but there was all this litter that was washed up from the river as well, from the lake. That was, you could see on the lake shore too, which was sad. But yeah, I was like, if you know me, I like to pick up recycling and recycle. So I just I always tell myself when I see that, I'm like, don't look at it, just race, just look at the race. You're here to race. You're here to race. You're not here to pick up trash. You're here to race, Ehren.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said you broke your ankle.
Yeah.
And that was from earlier. We kind of talked about it. You just were riding a different setup, and it was a little too flexy.
So I'll just go over briefly. So in 2020, like in September of 2020, I broke my ankle. I dislocated it in a fracture, and they had to put metal and surgery on me, on my ankle, on my right ankle, and I was out for like 9 months or so. As far as like recovery goes, learning how to getting comfortable walking again, putting weight on my ankle, all this muscle, physical fit therapy I had to go through as well. And just a long period of like waiting and like slowly walk around with like a brace or like an ankle, those kind of things until I eventually got to an actual shoe and all again. That time was also the busiest time ever at Insanity, or at any skate shop in the country. It was really busy and confusing that time. So there was like I could chill, but I still had to be working a lot. I still had to be 100% attention to Insanity, and that's all. Sometimes it is like I just have to concentrate on my time on Insanity, and like I can't skate as much. Like I have to concentrate on the shop. Whereas like other times in the past, I've been out to races. I'll go out to this race, go to that race. I'll go cross country touring and all this stuff previous years or whatever.
Yeah, you're usually all over the place. So sounds like you followed the protocol as far as like wearing the brace, taking it easy.
Yeah, I really followed my doctor's recommendations on everything. On like, how long to wait and just when to eventually get back on there. I was like, I'm not going to get on a board until he says, you're good, no more visits, you're good. Okay, cool. I can go back to skating.
And then when it was finally time to ride again, what did you do to get stronger, get the strength back?
I mean, I wore a brace, a little like light brace at first. It was nothing too major, but it was a light one. And then eventually I stopped wearing that sleeve and I just started pushing like normal. You know, it just, you have to get, tell yourself that yeah, you fell, but you're gonna, it's not gonna happen all the time. You have to get past that fear and everything, and then just get back to getting comfortable pushing. And I was already, my ankle was super strong and everything because I'd waited so long too. So it wasn't like it was super weak anymore. I'd given it so much time to rest and prepare that it was ready to go. I just need to make it strong. Like, it just happens over time.
Yeah.
And I can't just tell your ankle, get stronger. It's going to happen over time.
Yeah. So when did you, because part of the reason why I'm so surprised is because I don't really remember you being injured. I remember you riding at events. Like, for instance, you were at La Diga this past year. You did a Team Ultra in 2023. Were you 2022? Were you there? I assume 2021
yeah, so
you
in
weren't.
22 I was there, but I only did 60 miles or so.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I could have done like say 100 if I wanted to. It's just I needed 60 to get to 2,000 in total miles.
Yeah,
Miami Ultra.
That's cool.
And I was like, okay, that's enough for me, because my ankle was already feeling it a little bit too. My ankle was like, you're pushing it. You're not. This isn't like you're perfectly fine. Like, you're not, like, you've done 60 miles. You're gonna feel this really badly if you continue going past 100 and go to like, oh, I'm gonna do 150. Your ankle's gonna get really, really tired and worn out. You're not gonna be wanting to walk to the airport, to walk to the flight to get back home.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've had those times in the past where I've struggled to get to my gate or my terminal, get on a plane and go home. So I know that kind of feeling, as you probably do too.
Yeah. It's happened. So actually, from Miami one year, we missed the flight, and ever since then, I have like a recurring nightmare of missing a flight, and like it's like an element of my dreams now. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. 2,000 total miles at Miami Ultra Skate. That's really impressive. Which doesn't even include the kilometers, I should say, you've skated out at the Dutch.
Yeah, it doesn't count the Dutch ones even.
That's cool. So yeah, Insanity Boardshop. Definitely check it out for for all your skateboard needs or whatever, anything you're looking for. That's usually where I go. I just got, what did I get? Risers, I think I got recently from you.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah, you ordered some riser package from us.
Yeah, so the main topic of today's episode is actually an event you're trying to put on.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't even go over the Rock Around the Rock thing more.
Oh, yeah. Let's pedal back then.
Off topic. We were talking about my ankle and we got off the Rock Around the Rock at all.
You're right, yeah. How was the event, I guess?
It was good. It had all the rain and the tree branches and everything everywhere. So the first race is like a 9-mile loop around the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And normally it's fine, but because of the big puddles and all, like, you had to get off your board and run around them at some points and like transfer back to the road because people just like didn't want to get super wet. And my bottles kept on falling out of my pocket. So I had to pick over and pick them up. And
classic.
Yeah, people got ahead of me and I ended up, I don't know, like 6th or 7th or something. One of my teammates from the Ultra Skate, Tyler, he got first place. We kind of already knew that he was going to get first place. He's really fast and he's young. He's like 25, he's like 27, I think. I tried getting back into it after we got to a good part where it was just like, it was less big puddles.
Uh-huh.
But it's such a short 9-mile loop and everybody's pushing at the same time at a good pace. So it's really hard to catch everybody. But I did catch a couple of people.
Oh, that sounds so fun.
There was one part, where we were starting it in that area. The puddle was just like so big, it was up to like almost your waist, pretty much.
What?
Yeah,
that's gnarly.
It was really flooded. And then it continued on for a marathon. So there was a marathon portion where you could continue on to it after the loop round, and then you had to do another loop round after. So like went straight out, and then it came back and looped around again in the lake. 2 loops on the lake. And then the marathon I got 3rd place in.
Nice.
Yeah. It was just, broken tree limbs, skipping through like mud and trying not to fall over and all too. So no like records were broken, but it just was like, record of finishing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
want to finish.
love that the 9 mile distance
Mhm.
is such a fast race where it's like you start falling behind and like, so like compared to like
Yeah.
a day at
Yeah.
La Diga or something like that, it's like, oh, you got time. You might be able to catch up.
Hmm. Hmm.
Anything can happen, you know?
Yeah. No. Yeah. What was it? Day 2 of La Diga one year, I got really ahead of everybody, and it wasn't until 30 miles out that y'all actually caught up to me.
Yeah.
And it was a train of y'all catching up to me, and then you passed me up. But it took a whole 30 miles to do it. That's how long it takes sometimes just to catch up to somebody, even though you're pushing fast, but you're both pushing at good speed too at the same time. Unless somebody has a mess up, it's really hard.
Yeah.
It'll fall.
So it was a 9 miler and a marathon. And the way it worked is it was one start. So you just continued after the 9 miles, right?
Yeah, you just continued after the mine into the marathon.
I miss those short events. You know about all the 5K, 10Ks that used to go on.
Oh yeah,
West,
all the bigger races, all the races in like the Washington area.
Yeah, and then there were a bunch in Florida and South and East Coast. Always had something going on.
Mm-hmm.
Be nice to bring some of that back. Actually, right now, as we're speaking, is the Maytown Marathon is going on at skate camp. Scott Ziegler's.
Oh yeah, the skate camp one, yeah.
So
yeah, it's the second one they've been doing that too.
Yeah,
that series. It looks like a fun time. That's that kind of stuff is like the more like the neighborhood kind of skate where it's just like brings a community into it. Mm-hmm. It's not really about money, or it's not really about big entry fee or big costs money thing from it behind it. It's just a community kind of get together and skate, which is really like good also to have.
Yeah, it's like everyone plans vacation for the same time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of nice. To segue into your event then, right?
Yeah.
This is something you're trying to put on in your area, inspired by Chief La Diga. I remember you talking about it at the La Diga race. You were like, I want to do this thing. It's a 3-day event.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's break it down. Let's like quick overview.
So it's an event that like, the trail has been like being built as I was starting to distance skate. Like I started distance skating on this trail called Leon Creek Trail back in 2010, 2011. And I was like using it to, sometimes just push around or make fun, have fun pretty much. Mm-hmm. I was just in college joking around, kind of skating. And eventually they just started adding to it. I found there was this Salado Creek Trail. They started adding to that one. They were eventually connecting it together. And I was doing all these races like Chief La Diga, where I was just, I started that in 2013. And I was like, eventually they're going to probably connect these trails in some way, thinking in my head, they're going to connect them in some way. Mm-hmm. And it's going to make it super long. And that'd be really good to have a race at. Because, Chief is fun and it's a good race. But the pavement sucks in a lot of parts of it. Yeah. It's straight. It's so straight. You could look down it for like half a mile and see somebody skating basically, for the next half mile, and you can just see them off into the distance.
Yeah, even more than that in some spots.
Right. Yeah, like that's how y'all saw me for so long. Like I was like way ahead of y'all, but I was like, they can still see me. Like they're far back.
Yeah.
But like at this one, it's just S curves. There's S curves and curves and curves to it. You can see maybe like 1/10 of a mile in front of you, pretty much.
Oh, nice.
Because you're always taking a turn, another turn, or you're always going downhill, or you're going uphill.
Right.
It's hardly ever just a straightaway. There's some sections that are really straightaways, but it's a very minimal of it. It's more of like constantly turning or constantly like look like carving and turning, doing downhill or going uphill.
That adds a really interesting dynamic to the whole race part of it, because it's like, oh, like you're saying, you see someone, it's easier to catch them. or easier. Maybe it's not easy. I don't know. Whatever. It just changes things.
Right.
And,
I mean, someone could be
really
ahead
cool.
of you, and you think that you don't know that they're not really as far ahead of you as they are. They could only be like, 0.15 ahead of you, but you haven't seen them in a minute. So you think they're like really far ahead of you. And then you're like, oh, shoot, there they are.
Yeah.
They're like one corner, you're not going to see them, but another corner, you're like, oh, they're just right there. I have to know they're not going to go crazy fast ahead of me, just around the corner.
Or, someone sneaking up on you, right? That would be.
Yeah. You don't know someone's right behind you, but they're not that far back too as well. We've had little races on this trail in the past, like in the community in San Antonio, where we've gotten like 10 to 20 guys out there, and we've done like a certain distance on it.
Oh, cool.
Like maybe it's a good sprint, or so it's never really that far. Not many people want to push like over 13 miles.
That's fine. Yeah. That makes sense.
So, most of my races in San Antonio, the LDP ones, have just been like half a marathon or less, pretty much.
And for this one, you're trying to do something bigger. You're saying,
this one, like the first day is 77 miles. Yeah, and that's not an easy task. It's just like doing 93 at Chifladiga kind of style. It's not going to be easy.
Nice.
And they're different. They're both different in their own way, So it's both are different. Chifladiga has points where you want to just get off your board and walk up it in Trash Mountain. I do. I know that some of the faster guys, just skate through it somehow.
Right. Adam Ornelas.
I'll just walk because I'll conserve my energy for the rest of the event, for the rest of the time.
Sure.
I'm just like, this is such a short part of it. Why am I going to exert so much energy if I know I'm not going to finish in like the top 3 people? Right, I'm not going to winning the event. I don't need to exert myself that much. But this one at Leon and ours, there's moments like that too, where you want to think, oh my God, I need to get off my board. Is it better for me just to walk up this big hill, or should I continue pushing? And there's that point too. And there's also downhills where you're going to have to like slow down and foot brake and watch out for cyclists and walkers and dog walkers and poop on the trail, that kind of stuff.
So a question about this, we're talking about in comparison to Ladiga. I think that's a good thing to compare it to. And Ladiga is one trail, right? Over 3 days. Your event is also 3 days, but when I read up on it, it looks like it's actually 3 different trails, like different sections of the trail. It's not necessarily, it continues from the day before, right?
No, like one day you'll finish a trail. You'll finish, like the first day you'll finish the whole Leon Creek and Salado Creek trail. And then the next day you'll start off somewhere different, like South Salado and so on. But that is because you just don't connect yet. Later on, like in 15 years it'll be done, but it's just like they'll eventually connect more and more of it as time goes on. So where it starts out, you're pushing a lot of uphill up until like you get to like an S curve, and it just like it's a big like switchbacks kind of style. You're just pushing up switchbacks all the way up to the top of this hill. That's like massive hill area. That's all. This is all new stuff they just added after I broke my ankle and all, and came back. You push through these S curves until the top. And then it connects you down to Salado Creek afterwards, and you have to bomb through some stuff. But it's difficult. It's not easy. After, some of it's, there's a downhill. To every downhill, there's an uphill, I say.
Right.
So for every downhill you're going to go, there's going to be an uphill. You have to go back up it eventually at some point. So there's some points that are super easy, and then you're like having the back in mind, you should have the back in your mind that eventually I'm going to be pushing back up this hill, and it's going to be extremely hard. Especially if you're going like 20 to 25 miles an hour.
Yeah. On like unfamiliar territory, switchbacks, stuff like that. It's going to be.
And it's the weekend, so there's going to be a lot of people on the trail. There's a lot of cyclists on the trail that just like they ride in packs and they like to go fast. So you just kind of have to like be aware of like what's around you and just tell people like on your left or I'm coming up between you. And a lot of people don't know how to use a trail at all on there.
Right. I think that's the next big thing is like this whole idea of trail etiquette, and that there's, if you're the slowest person, if you're walking, you're the slowest vehicle on the trail, right? So
right, but people will like be like walking in one direction, like 3 wide, walking in one direction, but you can't go around it, and you have to everything like I'm on your left, and get their attention and shit.
And then they act like you're so rude for passing.
Like they own the road, they own the trail or so, and you're like, come on.
Yeah, I think that's just part of it. Like, I've definitely been walking on a trail and been in the wrong part of it, you know what I mean? Like I've screwed up that too before, so I can understand it. And even as a skateboarder, I've maybe swerved or carved too much in the road or whatever. We all make mistakes, but I think that's a really good point to call out. If your race or your event, has a lot of people on the trail, making sure people know your riders, right? The people you're responsible for know the etiquette.
Right. And I've come up on like other events on that trail randomly. And I'm like, oh shoot, there's a running event that's happening on this Saturday. I need to be very careful. Like they're just running around me and there's all these runners everywhere. Wow. So I'd be very careful and I don't hit anybody or just like go with the flow of the traffic and ride through it. I've had it happen several times with me. And then this one is very different from Chief. So Chief has that long section on the first day that's really rough pavement for like 20 miles.
Right.
Here there's no like really bad rough pavement like that. There's some areas that might be under construction or they might have low construction at. There might be loose rocks at in areas. They did some parts of the trails that have like these stone rocks that like art kind of architectural kind of look to it. And it's not that great to push through, but you can just like cruise through it and then re-push it later on. Like you'll just be like bouncing through it, but you can push through it if you want to, but I wouldn't push very fast through it because you could lose your balance pretty easily in there if you push really fast in there.
I know what you're saying. It's like a wobble almost.
Metal bridges, like wet bridges, because it's going to be in the winter. Sometimes the bridges can get wet in the morning.
Right.
But it's this metal like bridges that have like separation gaps all the way across. I mean, I kind of just cruise through those areas, but I wouldn't recommend like pushing super fast through them.
Okay.
You can lose your balance pretty easily. You could slip out, especially if it was wet. Yeah.
So there's a couple hazards, but nothing you wouldn't expect on a normal trail that's this long. And so I was reading it. It looks like you have quite a few aid stations too.
Yeah, there are. I kind of wanted to implement, kind of like Chief does, where there's like all these aid stations or like there's one every like 20 miles or so.
Right.
So I kind of did it similar to that. And then there's all these points where you could get off the trail somewhere too, where you could take the wrong turn, you go in a different direction, you jump on a different trail. So I'm going to have to mark off those parts too the days before.
What are you going to use to mark it?
A certain route.
What do you think you'll use to mark it out? Like some sort of colored ribbon or
chalk?
Chalk.
Yeah, chalk on the ground, because like anything else I have to go back for. If I put a bunch of cones down, I have to go back for a bunch of cones.
Sure.
If I put a bunch of, ribbon down, I'd have to go back for ribbon and pick it up later. And plus people can knock them over. People can take them out of the way too.
Can't steal chalk once it's on the pavement.
Yeah. So it's a mix of like asphalt, concrete, and then like pavement, like blacktop pavement too. It's a mix of both throughout the trail.
Okay. Are you worried the chalk might wash away, or do they make chalk that doesn't wash away as easily?
The chalk won't. It's not going to. It probably won't be wet, like super wet that day. But as long as you do it thick enough, it's not just gonna like wash away. Yeah.
Cool. I think that's a good idea.
And then most of it, like if you're skating within a group, you're gonna just go with the flow of like everybody else is going on the trail. Like if you see it just looks like it's a wrong direction, that's probably not the right direction to go on.
Yeah.
You know, do you go straight or do you take this random left that comes out of nowhere? You know, you should continue going straight, you know.
Have you considered like making a Strava map of it or some sort of route?
I have. I'm going to be posting to the route to the Facebook group. It's just that it's such a small, it's so big, covers so much distance that you're not going to see all the little wrong directions you could make until you're actually there in front of you. And some days are harder to remember than other days on like which route to go, which direction to go to.
Okay.
But after you do day one, you know, it's the hardest day. I have only completed it once on my own personally. I probably could have completed it more times. It's just that, you know, recovering my ankle and then it's so hard too. It really tires you out. It's like a 93 of Chief. And I've been most of the time I do it solo, so it's not like I have anybody with me to help me too.
So
yeah,
I have a question about that for you, as someone who's ridden long distance for a while. 77 miles solo. How much harder is that than doing 77 miles at an event?
I mean, so like at an event, you have somebody that can pass you a water, you have somebody that can give you some food or something like that if you need to. When you're out doing it solo, it's just whatever you bring on your backpack. I leave an extra couple like water bottles in my car, and I just go back to it to get in the cooler and get them when I come back to there. So I don't like do it all in one direction and one back. I like cut it in half in some area so I can get two more water bottles and then do the other second half of it.
So that's going to cut your pace big time. But like, what about mentally? Don't you think it's a lot harder? I'm just personally, that's how I feel. I'm curious how you feel.
You have to hydrate, keep yourself hydrated. You know, you have to get water at some point too. It kind of like, you kind of also just like stuck out there. Like if you have to remember, like you can't just like, you don't have anybody to call on. You don't have somebody to come pick you up if you get a cramp and you're stuck somewhere, if you get injured. So you have to just like take it a little bit easier on the skating too also. Yeah. I don't treat it like it's a race. I just go out there and push at a good like training kind of pace on there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So 77 miles first day. That'll be fun. Right. That'll be brutal. Sounds like a lot of elevation gain and some downhill to go with the climbing. What's day 2 looking like? So
day 2, kind of the future is that the end of like halfway of day 1, when it finishes off on Salado, you have to turn around and go back. And the day 2 start will eventually connect.
Okay.
But it goes to a military base and all that, so it's taken forever on that. That's like taken almost 10 years right now at this point.
Yeah.
Just get the route that they want to go with on there. It'll eventually get finished though. But right now, day 2 goes through South Salado and it continues on down there all the way to South San Antonio and areas too. Goes around a really big lake down there also on South Salado. It's called South Lions Park.
Oh, cool.
It goes through that area, and that's one area where you kind of you're just like, which direction do I go? Because it's like a newly added area of the trail. And I'll have to like really mark it down on there because it just takes you to it and you have to take a random left to get back onto the trail. And if you don't, you're just gonna end up going around the lake, you know. It's not a big lake, but you end up going around it. But yeah, there's more S curves, there's more turning, there's more uphill, downhill areas. Day 2 is really easier. It's more flatter in areas, so it's not as hard. There's still some like rough pavement section, but doesn't like last very long. Mm-hmm. Like really rocky, bouncy. It doesn't last very long too. And then after you go through that Lions Park lake, there's like a big S curves where you really can't just like ride down it. Oh, okay. You're gonna have to like get off your board and like walk it. and then move your board and stuff, because most of our boards just don't make those turns that gradually, that sharply.
Sharp, yeah. It'd be like Paul Kent doing the chicane
Right.
Ladiga sliding. You kind of have to slide it out if you want to hit it, and that would be if there was no one there, right? It sounds like these trails are pretty trafficked.
Sometimes it probably, even if there's no one there, it's really tight and technical in there,
right,
in that area. And I would just say take it easy through there. Is like, if you can't see around a blind corner, you shouldn't go faster. You should foot brake a little bit. You should slow down a little bit, because it's not going to make a difference as far as like what placing you're going to get. Because if you crash, it's going to be a whole lot worse than if you just like slide through at a slower pace. Also,
yeah, it sounds like a move you could make if you knew the trail better.
And
as like the first year for the event, no one's going to know the trail that well. So wise to take it
It's so
safe.
long, it's hard to memorize like what's around what it looks like on every corner. I can now, but it's taken me a long time to know what's on the next corner on every hill. How I should take it, if I should take it really fast, and it's not any worry about speed, or if I need to like foot brake through there a little bit, because I know I could wash out. Sometimes if you wash out, you're washing over a river that is not there anymore. It's just rocks, So you could just wash out and end up landing in a pile of rocks and hurting yourself that way too.
Oh,
yeah.
And we're in Texas. Are we going to encounter any wildlife while on this trail? Out of curiosity.
Yeah, you'll probably see deers. You'll see some deers and like some snakes randomly sometimes. Maybe not in the winter as many of all of them, but you'll see probably in the mornings you'll see deer out there. Maybe some bugs and flying around and might get in your way also.
Yeah. So nothing to be super cautious of, though.
No, the deers usually just stay to themselves. They don't even get on the trail. They'll see you and they'll get out of the way.
Yeah.
They might be trying to cross the trail at the time, but they usually get out of your way. Dog poop, poop on the trail. You got to be cautious for that stuff.
Oh, JJ knows a little bit about that.
Yes, he does. But yeah, you just got to be a little bit cautious about that little stuff too. Is there a mud patch there? If it rained recently, there might be mud patches. There might be a puddle that you have to go through or so. Also, there's areas that are under construction. They're adding on the highway, and it's just you go under the highway at one point. So there's one called 1604. You go under 1604, and they're working on construction above 1604 and below it. So there's always these rocks everywhere too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's day 2. We're going out to a lake. Circling back, it sounds like there's some windiness to the trail. Yeah,
there's a turnaround point as well that you turn around at. Eventually, it'll continue on from that point to another trail connection-wise, but that's as far as they built so far. So you just have to turn around and go back on. Day 2 is the easiest of all 3 of the days. Shortest in distance, and then easiest as far as overall. You're not really exerting as it's not like a hard 23 or so. It's not like a really bad uphill on 23. It's uphill and downhill, but it's mostly casual pushing on there. Anybody can really, that's been to a push race, could probably handle it.
Yeah, 23 would be that'd be fun after doing a really long day, doing a short one.
Yeah. Because day 3 is just as hard as day 1, if not harder in some ways.
Wow.
Yeah.
Looks like it's less mileage, but it's harder, you think?
It is. One area of it is just a bunch of turning. It's kind of like switchback stair, chicane kind of stairs, kind of. Well, just as soon as you go down, it turns like 180 degrees, like all the way back around, and turns back around 180 degrees as you're going down. And there's like guardrails on the side. You really can't skate down it. Like if somebody can on a drop through or on a platform, I would be surprised. because it's really hard. I maybe on a top mountain in some of those areas, but I wouldn't risk it personally. And it's very steep areas too. Also very steep, like as far as you going uphill a lot section, or going downhill in other directions. And you don't know what's around the next corner. You don't know if the next corner has a downhill section or the next corner has an uphill section. So you kind of just have to take it like casual through that area. You'll only be pushing like at 10 miles an hour. You could say, oh, this fast person is going to go fast. But in that section, they're going to be going a whole lot slower than they usually are just because they have to prepare themselves for each thing.
Right.
I think like
it's a safety thing.
10 to 12 miles an hour at max is like pushing it. In that area, you'll probably be going like 10 miles, like in trying to go at those paces too.
And that's just because you have to turn around a bunch.
Well, because you're always constantly turning or getting off your board, pushing uphill
and uphill.
That too. Not knowing what's around the next corner, you don't want to take it really fast. You want to take it more casual. Yeah, once you get to the area, you're going to notice that's that way. You're like, I should be more cautious and I should be like frugal and keep on going fast and risky.
Right.
Just because of a time, just because of how fast I want to go or whatever.
And this is day 360 total miles, right?
Yeah. And this is at the turnaround section of day 3. So this is at the very end of day 3. A lot of day 3 is nice. It has the long straights. It has, a lot of areas that are really nice. You're pushing next to the river. It's called the Missions River, San Antonio's Missions. It connects like through like the river walk. So like if you ever heard of San Antonio, if you ever heard of like the San Antonio River Walk. So this starts at the river walk area and it continues on down, called the Missions Trail. And the Missions Trail just goes all the way south. San Antonio continues on that way. So you're pushing next to the river and everything, which is really nice. And like up and down, like kind of casual as you're going. And there's some good pavement and bad pavement in that area too.
You mentioned how most of it's pretty straight and stuff. Is that, since this is all like the same trail, would you say most of the ride on like the whole weekend, all 3 days, is pretty much like straight and just like rolling hills? And then there's like these sections in there that are really tough? Or is it like is it more like rough than that?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of turning and carving. It's just like some of it's more at like a slower speed, but with like some straight sections, and then you get ready for next one, next turn.
Gotcha.
Next turning. Yeah.
It definitely seems like a pretty technical course then, because the more you know it, the better you know it, the more you can prepare and conserve your momentum for each.
Mm-hmm. It's nothing that really like if you have like, oh, I had to slide my wheels like super sideways to make this turn. Like you can just foot brake and go through it. It's not like super technical, but it is like where you're going to have to like remember to have to turn or have to get ready for next turn or so. There's also places where like there's been like movement in the ground, so where the trails like shifted. So some of it's like at one placing and then like different kind of levels. Or there's like there's like maybe a drop in the trail where you have to hit it at a certain spot to like hit it really well. Mm-hmm. If you hit it at a bad spot, you just won't ride it. You can still ride it through. It's just be longer and harder to get through it in that area.
Yeah.
Just certain sections, I guess I learned over time, like this is a perfect section to hit through it at a good speed. If I hit it through over on this side on the right, it's not really good. If I hit it from the left to the right, that's a really good spot. Because of how the roads how the trail's been like moved with placing.
Yeah.
In some areas.
It's funny how when you know the road or the ride better, you can just get those incremental advantages, and like you're saying, right? Like taking advantage of little dips in the trail to kind of like make like a little pump, almost like a pump track.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So like day 3, like, you're pushing, it starts off, you're just pushing really next to the lake and you're in the Mission River. And you're pushing through next to that for a long period of time. It's really actually like relaxing, but you still got to push up some hills and everything. So you have to be kind of like aware of what's up in front of you. Uphill, downhill, which direction do I go? Some points you could get off track too. It's not very clear as to which way is the right way to go. So I'll just have to like mark it in some ways, but kind of also just like let people know in that day, like, hey, when you come up to this big dam portion area, you should just go this certain route and get back on. And, it's really hard to know which direction you should go unless you've done it before.
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit with Scott about just event organizing in general. And he's like, the first year is always going to be rough, right? So
yeah,
I think everyone will expect to have to do some thinking on their part in terms of making sure they don't make the wrong turn,
Yeah.
And as long as you make that clear beforehand, right, either through maps or just a good description, I think is the best you can really do. Because even like you said, if people are riding in a group, they shouldn't get too lost, right?
Yeah. Well, even then, most of that group is not going to know the course too. You're like, oh yeah, I should go this way. And they're like, what's telling you that go that way though?
Yeah. It's like when nobody knows the right way, it might make it even more difficult. But ideally, right, if the information's there, someone in that group should have it or at least access to it, right? Because you can always pull up your phone.
Right. And I'm trying to also tell, I want JJ to come out to it. I want to try and see if someone like, JJ that knows a lot of this course as well. He knows a lot of these trails also. I want him to be out there skating with us too. Or maybe if I can even get Joey to do a day or so, that'd be cool too.
Yeah. So that's JJ Cobb, third place, Ladiga this year, and Joey Millette.
Joey Millette.
Wow, haven't seen him in so long.
Yeah.
Would be cool to see him at an event for sure. Love to see him.
He's still right now he's really into running and jogging and climbing mountains.
Oh yeah.
So cool. He's still active. It just he could do something. He could just, but yeah, he hasn't been skateboarding or longboarding as much. But yeah, he could definitely do a day or so to come out for.
They always come back.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah. So anything else on day 3? We can do an overview of all 3 days as well, but anything specific about day 3 we should go over?
Just that whole section of when you got to turn around at. So there's a Toyota center where they work on Toyotas on the south side of San Antonio, really south side, like a manufacturing plant. And then behind that is where the trail is.
Okay.
And it kind of goes in the back end of it. You're not going to see it, the Toyota, but this kind of gives you an idea where it is. It's just a bunch of uphill and downhill and S-curves and get off your board, get back on your board, that kind of stuff. And it's do I just cut through this all this and not walk through this whole part and just cut through all this S-curves? This is right in front of you. You can just make a jump and you cut through a lot of sections.
Oh, wow.
But you should walk it if you can, or walk around it.
I see. So you bring up a good point there, hopping a fence or right if there's switchbacks and just cutting across
hopping
them.
A guardrail just to get over to switchbacks to get over to the next section, because you could very easily do that in some of these sections.
The True Kill in Philadelphia, I believe Earl wanted us to Strava it or have track it on your own. There weren't too many people who showed up because it was raining. Yeah. It was really torrential downpour. But I'm wondering, are you going to plan to do the same thing and have people track it?
I would prefer if people tracked it. I'm also going to just go on the honor situation on that and just tell people, and then there's some sections where I'm just because it's so S-curved, you can just walk straight through it in some areas. You're gonna have to, you should walk around the guardrails. You shouldn't just go through underneath them and cut through them.
Right.
But if not going to be did they go all the way down, or did they just make a little cut over and go down?
Yeah.
Because mostly if everybody else is doing it then in your group, then you can do it too. I would say, but not to the extreme where you're going underneath all the guardrails and everything, and that kind of stuff. That's not how they designed it for you to go through too, as well. Kind of want to be nice to the trail and treat it the right way also as well. I feel like.
Right. Yeah. Being respectful trail users is very important.
Yeah.
For the event, especially, and the image, right? You're an ambassador for your sport. So
and if you got her jumping off of a little bridge, jumping off a little like jump just to make it down to a section instead of like walking around it, that's gonna, or you slip and fall and hurt yourself over some rocks. There's no one out there to come help you.
Right.
It's not an easy place to go get you from.
Okay. Good to know. Yeah. Good to know.
You're at the south side of San Antonio. It's very secluded over there. There's not a whole lot of living. Not as many people live on the south side as the north side.
Okay.
And then it's even outside of town too. So it's not even on the south side. It's like outside of town.
And that's just for day 3. The day 3 section is pretty remote.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
day 3 section is like the furthest outside of town you're going to get. Day 1, you're majorly in town. That's why it's the most, heavily populated area. So you're going to hit a lot of people when you're skating it. But like day 3, you're not going to see as many people on the trail that you're skating on. That's
really neat. That this whole trail sounds so cool. Like starts from the city, kind of goes around to the outskirts, and the plan is for it to loop back, right? Is that?
It's supposed to make, like a big loop around the whole city of San Antonio. That would be like 100-mile loop, basically. It's 77 out and back. So if you don't loop, you're looking at like 100 because you're not going out and back.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see like what it looks like as you continue this event. Like right now, this is what it looks like, and it's already sounds pretty gnarly. So
yeah,
very cool.
It's something that will not get finished until I'm like in my 40s.
Someone else can carry the torch. You can
see how I'm like, but it's going to take a long time for it to get finished.
That's all right. 1 mile at a time.
I'll try and continue skating until then, like distance skating. So I'm prepared, like still prepared to do like 100 miles around the circle.
Yeah.
In a day. Because that would be the ultimate goal, I guess you could say, on this trail. It's like be able to do the full 100 in a day.
That would be so cool.
Yeah.
100-mile day, 100-mile loop too. Start end where you started.
Yeah. And they're working on other ones like in Dallas, Fort Worth area, that connecting trails, or like making one that connects to Austin. Or like Houston has a good amount of trail systems too as well.
Yeah, definitely. Texas is cool. It feels like one of the more like undersung places for really nice like trail systems. Yeah,
the nature's pretty good too.
Oh yeah,
a lot of trees. There's a lot of coverage. It's even when it's hot, there's certain areas you can like hide under shade. When it's really hot, it won't be hot in that time of the year, but in March. But yeah,
I assume it's just desert everywhere in Texas, right? Like I've only been once to Austin, and when I went, I was like, oh, there's trees here. Like interesting. But yeah, so the full weekend is 160.5 miles, looks like. Gonna be great. I think it's gonna be a really nice time. People are gonna have a lot of fun.
So we're doing breakup days. So you could do just day 1 or just day 2 or just day 3, or you could do the whole 3 days if you wanted to.
Okay. And one thing I don't think we actually covered.
So you could do like just 1 day if you wanted to. Like we just did day 1 and you're like, oh, I'm too exhausted. I don't have the energy to do another day. You're done. Or if you only make it out for that day too, that's great too. You can just do that 1 day.
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? Is some people can't do all 3 days. So this is happening in March, and it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I forget the exact dates. I should have them written down, but I don't. I was like just looking at the Facebook page. Yeah,
so March 8th through the 10th. And then it has like a pre-start on the 8th as well at the Insanity, meet up at Insanity on the Thursday. If you ever been to like a chief or so, you want to fly in the day before or
that'd be the 7th, right? Like Thursday, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Thursday the 7th, we're gonna have up at Insanity.
Right at the Boardshop.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Just like a writers meeting I want to do there, just like to tell everybody what to expect from the race, and then do like last check-ins, and if we need to have sign waivers, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's really cool that you have a venue. That's so cool.
Yeah.
One of the things we were planning for La Diga, Carlos and I, was where we're gonna have that pre-meeting. So like, we had to rent out some space at the hotel for this year.
Yeah, and that hotel is super strict about it all.
Yeah. So you're gonna have a pre-event meeting Thursday.
Yeah. There's a hotel people can stay at that's nearby. I looked it up. It's like $60 to $65. I'll probably try and get like a good call ahead of time, see if I can get like a rate or something. But I would say it's like going to be about $60 per night. And
you'd recommend people stay there for the whole weekend because you don't need to have a new hotel, right?
Right. I mean, you could get new hotels in each area if you really wanted to, but I wouldn't know where to go to.
Yeah.
And it's so spread out. You could just drive there in the morning, get over there. Only day one is it really going to take so long of the day that you need to get started early.
Right. Yeah. 77 miles is a long day.
Mm-hmm.
But that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. And if some people want, they can stay in our backyard if they want to camp, or if they want to, sleep on a couch, like a small amount of people.
Camping in Ehren's backyard. Sounds like a party.
That's just like the people I kind of like know more. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get. Yeah. Cool. I love that. It's logistically pretty straightforward. You just show up in town. Maybe get a rental car if you feel like you need one for your group. But
yeah,
I feel like how most people do these things, they try and link up.
Yeah, I would say
someone who has a car.
Get like a group together on. I'll push people like, it's easier if you like get a group rental, or if people need to, I can come pick them up too from the airport also. Mm-hmm. But it'd get really hard if we had like not enough cars to go around to get to each spot to start the day at too.
Yeah. I wanna come to this event. Partially because it looks awesome, but also because I want to beat JJ Cobb. Hopefully he's listening. Yeah. No. It seems like a really nice time. Yeah. These like multi-day events are awesome.
A lot of these, like on Strava, JJ actually has the top King of the Mountain.
Does he now?
On these trails.
On the bike.
From way back in the day on his bike, like years ago. That's how I like first heard of like JJ Cobb, and I was like, oh wait, I've heard that name before. I've seen his name at an event before even, and I was like, oh wait, that was Adrenalina in San Diego, and that was that goofball that was pushing on roller skate wheels.
Yeah, yeah,
and tights and everything.
Uh-huh.
It looked like he was a cyclist that was at a skateboarding event.
Yeah. That was my impression of him first. Was like he had all his kit on, his cycling kit on.
And he thought that roller skate wheels were a good idea. Some people did. They lightweight wheels, but they learned it was not.
Yeah.
Not in the long run.
And like you got to try things to know, right? Sometimes
it's just you don't have anything. It doesn't have anything to grip up on. So any kind of small rock or so would just bounce you off, and you don't have good traction with them as well. So
yeah,
it greatly outweighs the fact that they weigh less.
Yeah, no, this is an excellent point. And like Adam during his episode elaborated on it pretty well, I thought. Like
yeah, I remember that.
It's just not the same, right? Like the wheels are in different places, and there's 4 of them. Like rollers, like if you're talking about like inline wheels, right?
Inline wheels, yeah, they're too skinny. There's just nothing for it to the rock to bounce off of.
Yeah, like they can pick that up.
Make you like stop really easily. Like
an inline rider is going to pick up their foot to get around a big enough rock or whatever, right? Like it's just different. It's just different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the pre-event meeting at Insanity Boardshop. Are you going to do like a post thing, like on day 3, or are you going to have like a
What do you mean,
ceremony,
like posting?
like a post event gathering.
Oh yeah,
afterwards.
like an after gathering. Yeah. So afterwards, we'll meet up at the end of day 3. So obviously, like a ceremony, like a announce the winners there at the event. We're not gonna like go back to Insanity or anything.
Okay.
It's kind of far from the shop.
Yeah.
And it'll be, kind of later. If people want to afterwards, that's where I would be. But I know other people have to be, get in on flights, get on planes to go back if they want to, or maybe stay another day and then they're flying back on the Monday.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to want to get back home too if they can eventually.
Right.
Normally after Chief, like you fly back the next day afterwards. It's really hard to get out of Atlanta that same day at the end of day 3.
Yep.
So usually fly back the next day afterwards.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what some people will be doing too. Or, if there is an easy flight they can take, they can same day, but you're kind of tired too.
Yeah. It's a tough call after a 60-mile day. Sounds like it's going to be a brutal 60-mile day to then hop on a plane that night. But I mean, some people have to, right, to get to work. If I go to this event, I'm going to try and take that Monday off myself, get a little extra time in sunny San Antonio.
What are you doing for work right now, Max?
For work, I work from home as a software engineer. So, and I technically have unlimited, quote unquote, paid time off. So I can just take the time as long as, my work's getting done. I won't get yelled at.
Yeah.
I could also take my work with me, but I'd rather just work extra during the week that I'm home and then not have to on Monday.
One of my cousins, he's a software engineer he's like in his 40s now, but he lives in San Diego, but a lot of times he's been traveling. He'll travel to Puerto Rico and live in Puerto Rico for 6 months.
Ooh.
Do work out of Wi-Fi in Puerto Rico at his friend's place and go kite surfing and then come back and then stay in San Diego and travel back and forth in different places.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think the trickiest part with that is like controlling your rent, right?
Right. I mean, I guess he just pays for his mortgage in San Diego, and now it was an apartment he was renting. Now he bought the apartment. So he just pretty much just likes to keep that place, and then he just stays at his buddy place. I don't think he probably doesn't pay his buddy anything for rent when he's staying there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. A lot of my cousins, my dad's side of the family, everybody's like an athlete. They all like to be outside. They all like to be doing some kind of athletic thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's where you get it from.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. All right. We talked a lot about La Diga so far and how that kind of inspired you to put on this event a little bit, but is there anything else that because you've done La Diga many times, right? So what was the final thing where you were like, I got to do this event? Like what really pushed you to do this?
I mean, so I've done so many La Digas. Even the reason I did the last La Diga was because I wanted to prove that I could do it again after I broke my ankle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you crushed it too.
I was I want to still be able to do it somewhere at the same kind of pace. Doesn't have to be as fast, but I just want to do it in the same kind of area of timing I used to do it and finish La Diga again. So I was kind of worried a little bit sometimes in day 3. I was just keep on going, keep on going. You're gonna finish it. It's it just takes forever. It's boring. This is the boringest race in the world because you're just pushing straight. You'll eventually be over with it and be done. We'll be enjoying a beer and relaxing with everybody else.
Yeah,
having some pizza.
It's always pizza at the end.
And then there was the rain. It didn't rain at all. And then it just started pouring at the end of day 3 when we were out there and we tried doing an award ceremony.
Dude, literally, I start riding out to meet the last rider, and the wind is roaring. I'm like, whoa, the wind's picking up. We get across the finish line, and then it starts pouring. Our last rider, it was crazy. Yeah. It was so crazy.
Just waited right for him to finish.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So you're doing this. This is happening in March.
Yeah,
there's a Facebook page with more details.
I'm expecting it's going to might be a low, 20 to 30 people kind of event, kind of first time.
Sounds ideal for something like this.
But that's kind of what you want. I know what y'all at Chief, for instance, the next one y'all want for this coming year in 24, y'all want to do only 30 people.
Yeah, that was the cap last year too. We didn't even hit the cap. So
And we've done once when it was like 45 people. And
Right.
they had a bus and they have to haul all the people on the bus and everything.
right.
A lot of logistics and everything. You know, people get lost. People don't know if they can actually finish every day.
Yeah. I think the cap is a really nice way to ensure you can keep things under control. And then if it becomes like, this thing's really in demand, then you can start saying like, all right, we need a bigger bus, because we're going to have a bus this year for Lydia. But then we might say, we need a bigger bus. Oh, we need more people. And then you can start even hiring people, right?
Yeah.
Or looking for donations.
With a bus, you have to be there on time. You have to be there when the bus driver wants to leave. You can't just like, that person slept in. They'll be here in 20 minutes. No skater time. You got to be on that bus when the bus driver leaves, because that bus driver is not going to wait around forever on you.
Right.
They're going to be like, let's go. We're leaving. That person's 20 minutes late. We're leaving. They're going to have to find another way to get to the start.
And it's exponential, right? Like if you think, we have 7 people, that's so much easier than 14, right? Like getting them from one place to another. Like if you only have one car, you could fit 7 people in one car. You can jam them in, right? But if you have one car, 14 people, that's at probably 3 trips. You're probably not going to do it in 2. And that's like shuttling people around, whatever. Like that's one element of the whole thing, right? So it's like, okay, well then let's get a big bus. But then it's like, who's going to be in charge of hiring the bus, making sure that gets here on time, and like, how are we going to pay for it, right? So all these other things. So knowing, and it's a balance, right? Like knowing how much effort needs to be put into these different elements is tricky. So like with Chief, right? It was the first year it happened in a while. So we had to kind of test the water a little bit. And I think for you, it's the same, right? You're kind of just like, hopefully 50 people don't show up, right?
Right. Yeah. I think that it will be probably about 20 people. I'll start registration at the beginning of the year, January, but I think that there'll be probably about if at most about 20 people that are doing it in total, 20 in an area. I'm hoping to get some of our old friends out there to come and skate, that fly in from different cities. They come out.
Yeah.
Don't mean to guilt trip people, but I have traveled to quite a bit of the races that you all posted over the years.
DM, call them out by name right now. I don't care. Yeah. Who we thinking? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who needs to come to Ehren's event? I think, I want to go, right? Sounds like an awesome time. JJ will be there.
I mean, I've hosted a lot of downhill events and freeride events and LDP events in the past, so I have a good experience of it.
Oh yeah,
and being to so many events too, being to so many, I've seen so much stuff, all the situations that have come up and happened over the years, the possibilities that can happen in different races, whether it be Chief Ladiga, Ultra Skate, Cali's race, where it was a really long push race she held.
Yeah, Central Lakes. Yeah, that seemed like a really fun one. I never got to it. Really cool that you're doing this stage events. There's 2 ends of the spectrum. We've talked about on the show before, where it's little events that are family friendly and in your local town, at your local park. These are awesome because they're accessible. But having these 3-day events adds this legitimacy to what we're doing. Not to say short races aren't legitimate, but this gets people's attention.
And what you also have to think is a lot of what we've been doing the past 3 years in IDSA is just virtual racing.
Right.
Ever since COVID, we've been doing virtual races.
Yeah.
And a lot of new people just got in just in the virtual racing kind of stuff. So they never knew or never seen, when we had a race series, when we had points series, we had actually going across country, for this race over here, that race over there, throughout a season and getting points for them and all, like you and I have over different years.
Yeah. I remember 2015, there was events everywhere. It wasn't there was one year where it was there were a ton of events in the Pacific Northwest. And it was if you lived there, you had a really good chance of scoring a lot of points. But there were many other years where it wasn't like that. And even that year was awesome. But there
was one time I think you and your brother stayed out in the Northwest for 3 weeks just to be able to go to all three of the races for each weekend.
Yeah, we did that twice.
And I was I'm gonna fly back and forth even if I have to. I'll do them too.
Yeah.
So I flew back to San Antonio, left the next weekend, flew back Portland, Seattle, did all three of them with y'all too. But y'all just stayed up there the whole time.
Yeah, we flew out like Friday night, Thursday, whatever, did the races that weekend, and then camped Monday through Friday, like halfway down the coast to the next race, and then did the next race that weekend. It was so much fun. So much fun. Highly recommend.
And camping out there with your friends is the best time, and too, like in Washington, camping with everybody.
Not as cold as you might imagine in the fall too. It's actually really nice.
Yeah. How do you like the virtual stuff? Do you like the virtual? Are you happy that it's going back to like some racing in the future?
Virtual? Well, yeah. So virtual, I dropped the ball on. I really should have participated more. The only virtual thing I've done is the October challenge. And I had a lot of fun with that. That was so much fun being part of Green Team.
Yeah. Nice.
What are you? Yellow?
Green Team.
You were Green Team.
Yeah.
Oh, you weren't in the chat.
Yeah.
We had a WhatsApp chat. I didn't see you there.
Oh, I didn't know.
Well, yeah, Green Team Pride. Where'd it go? We did pretty well.
I got like 4 points in.
Nice. Yeah. I think they're actually announcing that tonight, later on.
Nice.
But I bet Scott's busy with his event, so I'm not
Oh, yeah.
But I like the virtual because it gets so many people into it from across the world.
Gets people, not everybody can fly out for events, so they have the money for it. So it gets people from other countries, other places that never had a chance probably to ever compete, but they get to it.
Yeah. I think there's been a lot of talk about recently, I've noticed in the social medias about records and record keeping in distance skateboarding and how it's honestly very poor, right? Scott and I talked about it a little bit, and he's like not he very much prefers the other side of things where he gets to like make swag and do membership stuff, right? He doesn't really and I respect that big time, just focusing on what really matters, which is people having fun. But records are important to some people, and they are really cool, right? So having some sort of refined way.
For the longest time, there was records on pavedwave.org. If you remember the Paved Wave site, there's still records on there, but it just wasn't. It's kind of hard to find like which records for what, or like IDSA. They use that time score thing, just good timing thing. It's hard to find the races later on in time to look back and find, oh, this is the Chief Bodega of 2016. Here's your times, or 5K. Here's the times from that race that happened 5 years ago.
Right.
You have to really search for it because there's a lot of other events that are kept on those too. Also, so it's just piles on piles on top of it.
It's so tricky, right? Because like there's that element where it's like, how do we sort all this stuff? There's the fact that different 5K different courses are going to ride differently. Like a 5K could be straight downhill the whole time.
And then what's going on with the virtual thing is they're all great, but at every event, it's really good to get people out and all and everything. Everybody's course is different. Everybody's, Paul's over here pushing on in Ireland on a perfectly, S-tracked course to do 100 kilometers versus somebody over in Texas that has potholes and their 100 kilometers really messed up and it's the heat and it's hot out there. I couldn't do 100 kilometers right there in that heat because it was in the summertime for us. So I didn't do it. Scott and I had a long of talking about this too, asking him to move the date. Last year when they did 100K, it ended in October.
Oh, cool.
I was able to do even 100Ks in October, and I finished them both. But this year it ended before October and it started in June. So it was like June to like September. You had a time to do 100K. You're like, oh yeah, that's perfect amount of time, Ehren. That's so much time. I'm like, you know how hot it is?
Yeah.
From June to September. It doesn't matter if you give me 2 months, 3 months. It's hot during that time.
Yeah. That's
why I did it in October, because it just eventually that was when it got cool.
Yeah.
And then Scott, he did 100. He tried to do 100K in Florida, and he couldn't finish it because it was too hot for him. So he finally oh yeah, Ehren's right. Like, this isn't gonna work for some people.
So warm. It was crazy hot this summer. Crazy hot. Records in general if they're going to be legitimate, there needs to be some sort of record keeping body that determines, yes, this is a legitimate race. And with the virtual thing, you just really can't do that. Like, and that's why it's great, because it's community building, which is the most important part.
And I mean, that's what Adam's trying to do this weekend at skate camp. I mean, he's trying to do the marathon in an hour and 30, out under an hour 30. And it has to be like well recorded. It has to be, somebody has to say, oh yeah, Adam turned around and went the other direction at the halfway mark. He didn't just like cut early. We know he's not going to, but just, someone could say that he just cut early without like any kind of proof, no tracking, no somebody saying, oh yeah, he touched the pole and turned around, or he just, didn't, he just turned around,
Right. And it's not even like, is this person going to maliciously cheat the record? Like, if someone, like, the whole idea is you don't know for sure, right? Like, and that's just it. There's this little like margin for some sort of discrepancy in the timing, in the distance, that you can't, like, once there's that variable, it's like, okay, well then these records aren't the same, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's also just the outside of it. Like, back in the day, we were always worried about like if people were using steroids in skating, or some people might be like jacked in skating because we weren't testing. We didn't do any kind of tests. A lot of those sports, they do tests in different ways. And we're just like going off trust system.
Sure.
We know that Andy's a really good skater. We know this person's a really good skater, or this one's really fast. We can expect good times out of them, but we never do like any kind of testing or anything of that stuff too. In the broader scale of it, somebody could get away with it using that without not getting tested on.
I remember before an event one day, we were looking at someone's pre-workout, I guess it was something like that, and we looked at it and we were like, this has an amount of caffeine that would be considered disqualifying in like the Tour de France, like,
oh no, yeah. Some people I took a Red Bull before. I took like 3 Red Bulls before I started this 5K, or like they're just like really hypered up. I'm like, I did not do that. I didn't do that.
yeah. Everyone's different.
There's ways that you can like test it. The test is like not, they're like using something that's illegal basically. Like even if it's not steroids, there's other stuff you can use that they don't. Testosterone boosters that they don't allow in there. I know Jay, he has a medicine full of medicine he takes. Yeah,
there's all kinds of stuff you can take, right? Like, and we're not looking for it not yet. So who knows, right? I mean, the rules have to be there too first in order for it to really matter. So I don't think we really have those rules in place. All we have is the IDSA, and like, there might need to be like a second entity that focuses on records and kind of like what you're talking about, like substances, right? What is legal and illegal. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about today that we didn't cover? Doesn't have to be related to skateboarding at all.
I mean, just, don't forget about skate shops, your local shop in your area, longboard shop, skateboard shop in your area that you go to. Some people that they ask us to get stuff in and we have to order it in specifically for them. We can't always hold everything. We can't always know what you want to get in. So you have to sometimes be willing to ask them to get stuff in too. It's not just about, I want to support just, Rain or Pantheon directly, but also maybe buying it through a shop, and then you're supporting them and a shop, you're supporting both. You're buying your wheels from Ehren. Jeff still gets money from that too. And then pushes me to go out and buy more wheels too.
Yeah.
Or it pushes me to go out and buy more decks from Pantheon. And I don't order just like one deck. I'll order 10 or order 15 decks from them at a time.
Oh, wow.
And he makes big investments on his brand, for instance, for Pantheon. If you ever seen like his like garage, it's got full of decks and decks and decks that he's ordered in there from overseas, and you have to invest a lot of money and get and order a lot of boards at the same time because it's a far distance too.
Yeah.
Travel. Yeah, it's good to have, like, I got a sale, a discount on wheels. I got like them 20% off, $20 off because they're used, or so off the BST or so, buy sell trade pages. But sometimes buy new stuff, buy new gear.
Yeah.
You know?
Keep the shops running.
Buy new bearings or so. We do a lot more than just sell stuff, and we support a lot of people, support the scene, give people a place to come hang out at, local community, just come over and hang out with us. A bunch of Groms, a bunch of kids that just come over and hang out sometimes over the years, or people that I've seen, they were Groms when they first started off, and now they're full grown adults. They're in their 20s,
cool.
And they've grown up with the shop behind them the whole time. So it's just, that kind of community, that kind of stuff is what we kind of need.
So like this whole idea, like growing up, skate shops for me were like the coolest places to hang out,
Mm-hmm.
So I love how you're continuing that and keeping that tradition alive.
Yeah, you have to have a very inviting area. People aren't going to want to come there in the first place too, as well.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a great point. Being friendly when people walk in, making sure they, are comfortable and, feel welcome. That's great. I love that.
Yeah. So also, I guess just, shout out to Insanity Boardshop. That's where I work at. That's where I've been at for the past 11 years, selling longboards and skateboards. Good, really good ones, high performance boards that you can go fast on, do downhill, freeriding, long distance pushing on, all that kind of stuff on. And skateboarding, I already do skateboarding and stuff, protection, protective gear.
Mm-hmm.
We help people get to races, help riders skate. We did that Insanity at the last Ultra Skate, for instance. We paid for their entry fees through our sponsorship as an event sponsor, but they didn't have to pay for the entry fees on there. And like everybody wore like a Insanity shirt vest. You remember seeing that?
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, like our team vests. So just fun things like that, where like we, not just that, my friends would go out and they'll skate downhill together in California, make meetups in the past. So they've gone to other states and do downhill together meet up with friends and skate. Just all those connections you get to make with other people too, that you wouldn't have if it was like an online store only, or if it's just like, you have to have a good shop or community around that base, pretty much.
Yeah, there's no replacement for that like human connection,
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like, Insanity Boardshop is a place that curates that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I mean, we try to. We've grown up in Texas and like behind this other shop called Carve Longboard Shop. So it was like Carve Skate Shop that started up back in the day. And they had a location in Houston and Austin, Texas. And they had like a lot of, longboards. It was basically like, we got a motion, but like it's in San Antonio, in Texas. It's called
Right.
Carve. They went around the country racing, touring, downhill racing, downhill skating, that kind of stuff too. And we were kind of like the smaller stepbrother to them, like the younger stepbrother.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there's Noble Longboarding, or, other little companies that started up around the way that helped and make the scene what it is. And then eventually nowadays, Carve ended up having to close up. They can last forever. They can stay open forever for certain money issues, money problems. And then they closed up. And now, we're still holding it down, and it's Insanity years and years later on. And then, some of those people are in Houston and all, they're still skating. They try and get together and everything, but it's not, I don't feel like it's like it used to be. Like where they could just go and hang out at Carve, and they could just go hang out the couch and relax for hours and just talk to other guys and have like a safe space they could go to and hang out at.
Right.
Drifting in cars, or whatever else they want to do the time with.
There's other hobbies out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
People can do other things if they want to.
Yeah. It's just you kind of right, but you gotta come back to do skating too. Also.
Yeah.
Are you going to Ultra Skate?
Yeah, I was going to ask you. So, are you going to be there next? Is that your next thing? That's my next thing.
So I did register for Ultra Skate. I don't plan on registering for Ultra Skate.
Okay.
I think if I'm next time I do an Ultra Skate, if I'm not doing 200, I don't want to be competing.
Okay.
Not because I don't want to be competing. It's just because like I can use that money to. Money is very tight, and we just we're using it everywhere we can on expenses for the family.
Yeah.
So like if I have 1,000, for ultra skate, that could be used for us.
Yeah.
Or I have 1,000 to go for Chief Ladiga. That's 1,000 I could be using for us. Paying bills or paying off my car or paying for the house or paying for groceries or something like that. Paying for more clothes. And those kind of events, there'll be a 25 ultra skate. There'll be a 25 Chief Ladiga probably. They'll be there down.
Yeah.
They'll be there down the line. And I want to, if I'm not ready to get to 200, if I'm not ready to get to 250, I can wait a year, because I've already done it so many times too. At the same time, I've already gotten 150. I've already got 205 times. It's not as much that pushes me anymore.
Yeah. It seemed like you had a lot of fun last year with the team. I remember seeing you.
Yeah.
You seemed like you had a good time.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to do. I wanted to do a team skate and like get like guys in Texas to do something fun. That was a really good time. We got over 300 miles, and that was something it was different because like you kind of have to, you're pushing, but you get off your board and you have to go back on your board, off the board, back on the board. So your muscles start relaxing. They think they'll like, oh, I can chill, I can relax again. And then you're like, no, you got to go out again. You got to go skate again.
I think that makes sense, right? Have your priorities in a row and just make sure.
Last year earlier this year, I did those events. I did ultra skate. I did Chief Ladiga. And I still had the kids with me. But I did those events because I was like, well, I already paid for them before I had the kids. Let's do it. Let's do it one more time. Let's go out and finish these off and do it one more time each. Have fun. And then if the money's there later on, you can go back and do it again. But because you already paid for them, let's just go ahead and do them instead of like canceling events, canceling this, and just like not doing them. I wanted to just already go ahead with what I was planning on doing in those events. And then let's see if I wanted to do it the next year or so too. I'm not going to do Chief Ladiga also, mainly because I want to get ready for my event and I just want to do that one.
Yeah.
I'm kind of also just bored of I'm not bored of the people at Chief. I'm bored of the route of Chief Ladiga.
I can understand that. Yeah. I mean, and maybe bored is not the correct word. Maybe it's more like how much is it worth it, like for the monetary investment to go skate the trail you've skated already, right? Obviously, hanging out with people is great.
Hanging out with the people is great. It's the endless miles of straight flat, straightaways that I'm just like, just keep on pushing straight, yada yada yada. Let me think about something. I don't know what to think about, but I'll think about something while I'm pushing in a straight line for endless amount of hours until we're done with day 3. I mean, it's fine if you've never done it before. It's not that bad, but when you've done it so many times, it you can see how it kind of gets repetitive.
I think it's a bit of a rite of passage for any long distance skateboarder. Yeah,
I think one time you and your brother took it easy, and y'all just like stopped on one of the days and just like chilled at the lake.
Yeah, like day 3 we dunked in the river.
Yeah, in the river, day 3.
That was so much fun.
Stayed there for a little while. And then what you did last year too was just like you just like helped out with your volunteer. That was great too.
Right, and like I skated a little bit out from the aid stations, and it wasn't long before I was like, "Wow, this sucks." like this is fun, but it sucks already. Like I haven't even been out here that long, so I'm always jealous when I don't go to the events, but when I'm there, I'm just like, "Why am I?" Why am I so envious?
I think we're jealous because we don't see our friends as much. We're like, I didn't see this friend. I didn't see this person. I didn't see that person like to connect with.
Yeah.
Like to talk with for a long time. And then you're like, when's the next time I'm going to see them? Probably like in probably 6 months or something, like a long time in between.
It's funny how we see each other almost every year in some cases. A lot happens in a year, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was telling Ivy about this yesterday. Like so many of these people, like you and like other people, right? Juan Molina came to mind, and like Andy, right? Earl. It's good. Like you guys have all been characters in my life, right? Yeah. For like 10 years ago, it was like, oh yeah, Aaron's the guy who owns the skate shop. He comes to the events. Like you would bring me stuff to ultra skate, right? Like gear. But now
Yeah.
it's like been like 10 years. You guys are like my friends, right? Like it's not so much like you're just characters in my life. It's like we're friends who like see each other so sporadically, you know? It's fun. But yeah, Ehren, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Social media, anything we want to plug before we sign off?
Yeah. So Insanity's on all social, like Facebook, Instagram, or even on Twitter, but we just use it as like it just reposts from Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say the most one that we care about is Instagram on there.
Gotcha.
Insanity BS stands for Insanity Boardshop. And then same thing with our website. It's insanitybs.com. But if you also search insanityboardshop.com, you'll find us that way too.
Okay.
It redirects it to Insanity BS.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And, we're up to date. We're trying to be really professional about like how we present our website and present everything to people. It's a long time in the making. Like, whereas like, I went from like not caring about a website, like, I don't need to do a website. That's something, big online shops are already handling that. They're fine with it. So I was like pushing myself to, okay, try a little bit, put it online.
Uh-huh.
If you don't do it, great. If you don't make a whole lot of sales, that's fine. But we're trying out there to push the next envelope to next level, of showing off our stuff. To where now the point, like the guy that we were working with this past couple of years on making our website, he made an app that that helped you build like completes.
Oh,
so you
neat.
can say like, I want a Pantheon board and I want, this specific truck, this specific wheel on there. And it looks like you're building it customly in the store, but you're building it through an app on a website. And he, did all the back end coding work for it to bring it to life. And it, I just do the maintenance on there, and it could help you really build some really nice completes on there. There's someone that doesn't know how to build like an LDP complete or like a downhill board, a freestyle, skateboard builds too.
Uh-huh.
I feel like every big shop has a way to build like some basic complete on their website if they're really good. So that's kind of like what we wanted to do with this, is like take it to that next level to where you could actually build a complete without having to hop through like the whole website to build it.
Gotcha.
Going through like page by page by page. It's just all on one page, and you just click a button, drop through, look at your options and choose. It even shows you the price what you've chosen as you're building it. Like, oh, these pairs trucks cost this much, $64, or these seismic wheels cost $105, or Pantheon cameras, whatever price they are too. It'll show you that on there, the breakdown as you're choosing things. And if you want to change it, you just choose something different on there, like a different set of wheels.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and people have used it. They've utilized it mostly whenever we're doing like an advertisement. These ads I've made on Instagram, but people have used it sometimes randomly to place orders with, and they'll just like build a complete on there, and then we'll get the order, and then we'll build it and send it off to them.
Yeah. The online shop's huge. That's what I use, right?
Yeah, it's hard about online because like I'm not right there in front of you to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Some people like that experience because they feel like they don't have somebody that's pressuring them to buy something that they do not necessarily need to buy, because you're online, you can like see it on your own time and at your own pace and everything. But at the same time, you don't get the advice of the shop worker, the shop employee, me on there. Unless you message me and ask me something, you don't get our kind of like input on stuff too. Which is why I feel like that build a board thing is so helpful in a way too, on there.
Yeah. Communicating with an expert is a huge asset, I think, that people underestimate.
Yeah. So many places they're trying to replace their phone service with like an AI generated instant messages kind of system.
Mm-hmm.
And even that's just like it kind of works, but it's not really that great,
right,
on a real world level. It's not like you're speaking to an actual person.
Yeah, I always struggle with those. They don't really like do quite enough, right? It's always like I end up having to talk to someone anyway, right?
Yeah, I just try and get to a person as quickly as possible. I'm like, get me to a person, customer service.
Yeah. Give me an agent. yelling at the robot. Awesome. Hey, well, again, really appreciate. Thanks for coming on, talking about your event.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was funny hearing my name mentioned in a couple of them.
Yeah, you've been mentioned a few times. It's a good thing we got you on. Yeah, Angel was talking about how he raced you. Yeah.
It's funny. He was saying that, like, Ehren fell down in Ehren Passion where he like got into an accident and the board went out into the lake, into the ocean. He had to go get it. And Ehren Matter. And I'm like, yeah, no, a lot of races I've ended up injuring myself or so in some way.
Well, the funny thing was
having an interesting story for some reason.
Yeah, but like you caught up to him, right? And that seems to always be the case. Is like it doesn't seem to affect you. It's just you have these crazy things happen to you.
Well, no, yeah, like at Ultra Skate in Dutch in 2016, I hit some. So do you know about this one story?
Oh, it was your birthday.
Yeah. So it was like my birthday. I was turning 26. And I was in Dutch Ultra Skate, and we were pushing the Ultra Skate, that one. And I was pushing in a group of 3 for like a good amount of time in draft touring. And this is when I was like my most healthiest, fastest kind of time area.
Mm-hmm.
I was really good health wise and everything. I was like pushing draft. And we were just pushing fine. We were over 100 miles. We'd done like 100 miles together. And then these 2 like random guys jumped into the draft train. I don't remember who they were. They were just like some European guys.
Uh-huh.
And they jumped into our draft with us, and we started pushing in a group of 5, like maybe 5 or maybe even might have been 6. But I was kind of in the back end of it, and one of them was pushing, and they like flipped my wheel.
Oh,
they hit my wheel, and made me like fly forward. And my face just like hit the pavement like this. And like I got like messed up on the face, like here and like on the top end. It was like kind of, we'd already done like over 100 miles. So it was already like towards like halfway through the day, getting towards nighttime there.
Mm-hmm.
The sun sets really late over there. So it just may have gotten like towards that time, but it was like maybe 6 o'clock at night. It was like, we'd already done 100 miles in there. I was on probably pace to do 250 that day. I was
smacked your face to the pavement. That sucks.
Health and everything was my best I've ever been. Like as far as the times I've gotten over 200 and all too, I felt like my best as far as like healthy wise. Like right now you see a lot of people trying like, oh, I'm going to go do 300 miles, but I've never done an ultra skate before. I want to go, break a record, but I've never done it before. I've never even done an ultra skate before. And it's like, yeah, it's really nice to say, or nice that you've trained for it and you think you're okay, you think you're ready, but then you get out there and you've done that first 100 miles. You're like, shit, this is hard. I just did 100 miles. My body does not feel the same it did felt when I just done 20 miles. Now I've done 120 miles and my body feels like it's about to fall apart. How am I going to continue pushing not only just 80 miles, another 180 miles to 300?
That's just how it feels all the time at Ultra. It's just like, how am I going to do this?
I feel like, newer people they think it's easier than it actually is. And they just think it's easier to do 300 miles or so. But 300, for instance, that's 12 and a half miles an hour for 24 hours.
Right. That's no joke.
That's an extremely fast pace for a long time. Most of my training, I do like 11 to 12 miles an hour pace. And that's like 5 to 6 minute miles, 5 minutes to 6 minute miles. And that's still right there is hard. That's hard too.
Really tough. I mean, it's tough to keep over such a long period of time and stay focused. Like, it's crazy.
And a lot of the reason why those guys they're able to do over 300 is because they're in a draft. They're in a draft that they're carried with. In the Dutch one, they stick in the draft better than they do in the U.S. draft in Miami. There'll be like a 13-man draft, and it's like you could be pushing the middle of it, and you're not feeling any wind resistance at all. You're not trying at all. You're just pushing. You're just chill pushing, but you're going like 12, 13 miles an hour on the loop, and you're like, that was going that fast?
Yeah.
But then in Miami, you're like, it's so spread out, and then some sections it's really like pushed in, it's congested, and you have to go around somebody in a tight lane. And in other spots, it's really spread out on the ends. It's really spread out, so it's really hard to like stick in a pack like that. It's mostly becomes like a straight train kind of pack, where it ends up being like just a straight train.
Yeah.
Both end up forming, and it ends up being like separated out. Towards like there's one here, and then there's another one like a quarter of a mile back or so.
The Miami draft trains are a little weak, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, you hadn't been out to Dutch yet.
No, never.
Yeah,
not once. Maybe 2024.
Hopefully, if they get it back up and going. They didn't do it this year.
Yeah.
They did that one. They did that one in the UK, which was nice. They did one over there in the UK.
I'll probably be going to that.
Yeah. That one seems like a homegrown one too, where it's just like Miami is kind of big time, whereas like Dutch is more like homegrown background community kind of base, where it's like they have a small budget. It's very small price, entry fee and everything too. They had 100 people that event.
Yeah,
there.
Dutch is pretty big
nice
time
too. The one at Dutch,
they're pretty big time.
Yeah,
just not as much of a spectacle.
Yeah, no, the course is not. It's not a speedway. It's not a Miami Speedway.
It's not Miami, Florida, right?
No. even when you think it's Miami, like no, it's not Miami. It's Homestead. That's 50 miles south of Miami. That's driving a long way from Miami or Fort Lauderdale when you fly into to get to Homestead.
Not quite Miami.
I've just been on a lot of trips. I've done the full thing as far as like going out to events and like going to Dutch, and like last year before I went to Dutch and like made a trip, I stayed there for 2 weeks and then I came back. That was really fun. And I was ended up being right before COVID hit us all, so it was like a good time to do one last hurrah before COVID. That was a good experience.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
I went to that Ultra Skate, but I had very little sleep. So I was like falling asleep in the middle of the Ultra Skate. So I didn't do as much as I should have or I could have that year. Just flying. You have to really take your time or go ahead of time.
But yeah. Awesome. Well, I gotta get on my board today.
Yeah, go for it. Go out there. Have a good ride.
Do that. I really appreciate you taking all this time out of your day. Strava? What's that? I'm on Strava, yeah. But yeah, you took a lot of time out of your day. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for having me on here. Thanks for inviting me over.
Get the word. You are very welcome. Anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime, yeah.
Always good seeing you.
Always good, yeah. And we'll stay in touch. I'll post about the event, but I'll probably ask you more questions as time goes on.
Yeah, totally. If anybody has questions, just let me know about the event, and I'll be happy to answer them. Give you some answers. Yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. Thanks, Ehren.
Yeah. Good seeing you, Max.
You too.